Well, it's running, Tom, but it seems like we might not be quite ready to take this one for a test drive.
I think if we just bolt down a lawn chair, it'll be ready. Mad Max has got nothing on us.
If only we had a lawn chair.
This is Dick Landy's ramp truck. One of his ramp trucks.
It's part of Dick Landy's ramp truck.
It's most of Dick Landy's ramp truck.
Well, I think that I'm going to go around to the front so people can get a better idea of what this truck is. Be right back. Okay, so from this angle, it does kind of look more like a truck. You can recognize a cab. You can see it's a Dodge. It's even got a grill in it. It looks pretty much ready to go. Tom, what is a Dodge D700? What is a ramp truck? Who is Dick Landy? There are so many questions. We need to answer them.
Well, this is Dick Landy's ramp truck, which we've covered already, but we haven't actually put it on YouTube, which is why we're here now. It is a work in progress. It was in very bad condition when we got it. I'm mocking up a lot of things now, just doing the fitment on everything. That's the original Dick Landy lettering. His original door. We had to splice in a bottom piece.
You're skipping way ahead. Here, hold this camera and let me give people the basic. Because Tom's like, you guys already know this, but you might not know this. So Dick Landy was a pro stock racer in the 60s, 70s, 80s. When did he retire?
I think he stopped driving about 80, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly.
He was an engine builder. He worked on a lot of other famous racers' projects and engines. He was good friends with Don Prudhomme and Roland Leong. And he also was a factory-sponsored racer in the 60s and 70s, which was kind of a new thing. And he was sponsored by Dodge. So they gave him trucks, and they also had him go to clinics. He would go to different Dodge dealerships, especially the ones that kind of specialized in high performance stuff. And then all of the grassroots racers, all of the younger racers, they could come to this clinic and basically take a class in how to make their stock cars faster and how to be better racers. So they would learn things like, gear ratios and how to hop up an engine. Maybe they would talk about cutting a light, or maybe they would even talk about the best ways of getting your race car to the track. Transporting cars to the track in the early days of racing was not like today with all the big semi-trucks. I mean, originally it was like flat trailers towed behind like a station wagon, if you were even towing your car. I mean, people were still driving their cars to the track. By the 70s, this is the 1970 season truck. By the 70s, the top racers had ramp trucks. So it was like, not like semi-truck level, but like one step down, right? Like in...
Yeah, like medium duty trucks.
Like, like a dump truck size. Except that the back bed would be a ramp so that you could carry a car, and then they would also often tow a trailer with another car. And it was a big deal. I think the most famous ramp trucks are probably the Snake and Mongoose trucks, the yellow and red trucks that Prudhomme and McEwen used. I think Shelby had a fairly famous ramp truck. It was slightly different style. Richard Petty used a ramp truck. Sox and Martin used a ramp truck. And Dick Landy used a ramp truck. And this is it. Like, this is the actual truck. We wanted one for a long time. And Tom was looking. There aren't very many of them. And he was, I should let you tell that story, Tom. That's your.
Well, I gotta
moment.
say, Ilana, you did a much better introduction than I could have done. These trucks, these are big trucks. This truck is 33 feet long, which is not a pickup. They have a similar pickup body.
Yeah, this is like, what is it, the Swept-Line style?
Dodge Swept-Line series of trucks, and Dodge used to build big trucks. They built a new 5500, but it's a toy compared to this thing. They made these all the way up to like 800s in this body style. The gross vehicle weight rating of this vehicle is like 50,000 pounds. So a 413 engine is the biggest gasoline engine that Dodge had in trucks, and that's what they used.
Wait, what's the vehicle rating?
50,000 pounds.
So it's okay that I had donuts for breakfast this morning.
I think we can accommodate 6 donuts, not anymore.
So 413, that's what engine's in it?
It's actually a 413 HD, which is it's the high performance one. It's the best one you could have in a truck. It's made for long life.
What's the relationship between a 413 HD and like a 413 like a super stock cross ram type engine?
Well, they're both B series Chrysler V8s. This is the industrial version. The cylinder heads on this are made for torque. Very small ports, high port velocity. It's not designed for racing. There's nothing good about these heads except for towing.
So this isn't like the same engine that you would have got in like a 65?
In displacement only, yeah, this is not the same.
But these engines are related to the more famous 440s, right? Like a wedge Chrysler performance
it's the Chrysler
engine.
wedge engine. This truck has full air brakes. That's an air brake compressor. It has it's lubricated by the engine, which is kind of cool. It's all integrated. It drains back into the pan. It has a dual canister oil filter and oil cooler assembly all integrated into it.
All of that seems very efficient, but when we did acquire this truck, someone had damaged it, and all of that stuff had gone through the entire system.
Let me grab the piston out of it. So this was the condition of the engine when I took it apart. Bearing in mind, of course, that it was running when parked. You know, everybody sells a vehicle. They're like, it was running when we parked it.
Yeah, I believe when we were initially talking about getting this truck here to our house in the valley in California, from, where was it, Ohio?
Yeah, Michigan, yeah.
They were like, yeah, you could probably drive it back. you could drive it back. But I'm skipping ahead again because we haven't told you yet how we found the truck, and now you know it came from back east. But Landy was a California racer. In fact, his shop was right here in the valley near us. So this truck has a lot of connection to us and to where we live. It's kind of nice to bring it home again. Tom, how did you find the truck?
Well, that's a whole freaking mini-series in itself. I mean, I don't think anybody on YouTube has enough time for that story. But basically, I ran a classified ad in National Dragster, and I got one response in 6 months of trying. And the guy didn't own it, but he knew where it was. And so he pointed me in the direction of a guy named Count Kennedy, with a K, who apparently was a showman who would go to car shows and fairs and dress like a vampire and had jet turbines that shot flames out of a coffin. I mean, the guy was quite the showman. And Count Kennedy's in his 80s at this time. And all I had was the name and the state. But he gave me the wrong state. But, you know, the internet is an amazing thing. And I searched the Yellow Pages online and just everywhere online. I eventually found an old MySpace profile that had this guy's name.
Yeah, it was like the guy's son's MySpace page.
And it was in a different state. But then when I found the actual state where Count Kennedy resided, Paul Kennedy is his real name, I found him and mailed him a letter. And sure enough, he called us and says, hey, I've got that truck.
What's funny is that he called, Tom was at work, and I was home for some reason, and I almost never answer the house phone because it's always for Tom. But something, I just felt it. I felt like a vibe. I was like, I have to take this phone call. And then it ended up being Paul Kennedy, and he was like, hey, I got a letter about my truck. And I was like, oh my God, give me your number right now. Do not hang up. Yes, we want it.
When the Count calls, you pick up the phone, Ilana.
And then it turns out, so he owned the truck, but he had never used the truck. And the truck was at his friend's place, and his friend was
Airplane Freddie
Sibley, whose claim to fame, besides running rocket-powered tractors, I think, was that he had like the largest collection of like World War II era airplane engines, and like sold them to like
another super old guy that had a lot of cool stuff. In fact, the truck driver that picked this up had his picture taken with him in his front yard because he had like an Apollo rocket engine in his front yard, which is pretty unusual.
Yeah, and I think Fred Sibley sold engine parts to like a lot of the different racers who had like their own private like World War II era planes and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Which is so pretty cool. I'm glad we didn't fly out there and try and drive it back home. Getting it home, even once it was picked up, was ridiculous because it got stopped at the border because it apparently had gypsy moth infestation.
Which is banned in California.
Yeah, it's some sort of agricultural pest. And so the truck driver called. It was like Easter. It was a holiday.
Easter week.
The truck driver called and he's like, I'm stuck. They won't let me in. We got to fumigate the truck. It was like, we were like, we're never going to get this truck. And we had not seen it. We had no idea what shape it was in. And then it got here. And Tom, would you say it was in worse shape than you were expecting?
It was definitely in worse shape. But it is what it is. I knew it was the right truck because I've been looking for any of these trucks, and finding Dick Landy's was just like an extra bonus, you know.
Yeah, so all of this, we've been working on it, what, Tom, 5 years?
I think we've
6
owned
years?
it 7 years.
Yeah. All of this is new. The engine's completely rebuilt. All of the parts that we showed you earlier are Tom tracked down from various places around the globe. These trucks were not the ramp trucks, but the big D7 and D800s were used internationally. So I think we found gaskets in like Turkey and like
I have to
filters
interrupt you
in
on it
Israel.
because our dog is stuck somehow in the ivy.
Wait, what?
He can't move. He's actually literally stuck.
Phil, are you stuck?
Let me try and get him out of there because this is a humane program.
Oh, he is stuck.
How did you do this? Our dog is not smart, but he is a nice animal.
He is not smart.
Yeah.
Where were we? We had just gotten the truck. We had finally gotten here into our backyard, and it looked like this. So you can see that it was very, very rusty, and also someone had cut the T-box off of it. See that original picture up there? Has this big T-box for the tires above the like storage box behind the cab, and those always get cut off on these trucks, and so we're definitely gonna have to rebuild that. But at the time, you know, we were still pretty excited to have it. We hadn't seen anything even close to it. Still haven't really.
No.
And we had heard that it was Dick Landy's truck, but we weren't positive that it was. And I think some of the first things that we saw that made us realize this is actually the truck that he used was the top of the box, which we've now disassembled, is this little panel here. And you can see it's been cut in half, but you can see the remains of these orange stripes on both sides, which were on Landy's truck. And then maybe more importantly, you can see that it says Dick Landy's across the top. So, I mean, it's pretty unlikely that anybody else was going to have that piece on a truck that wasn't Dick Landy's, but we found some more stuff. This drawer here is the remains of a DLI sticker. Looks pretty old.
I mean, there is a lot for people to take in on this video.
Well, we're giving them the full tour. You can see the back of this panel is silver. The truck was originally silver. And we did find some photos, not that showed that light, but showed the one on the back, I believe. Right, Tom?
Well, we could show some other photos that we have.
Yeah. You can see the curve at the bottom of the roof panel there. That's where the tire would sit in the tire box. These bubble windows were not original, so we'll be taking those out. If anybody has a van, call us up. We'll hook you up with some sweet, sweet Dick Landy truck bubble windows.
Can you see this piece of metal? This is pretty representative of what the sheet metal was like on this vehicle. And all the people that do body work are going to look at that and think, wow, that's a bad vehicle.
There wasn't a single bolt that we took off this that did not break.
No, I drilled and removed probably 100 broken bolts. I stripped it down to the bare frame. This has all been put back. Mechanically, it's all rebuilt.
And I just had a sudden flashback to you built this giant plastic like bead blasting booth in the yard and blasted this thing. I remember being very worried you were going to blow yourself up with static electricity. But you didn't. And look how nice it looks.
No, it's good.
Had the gas tanks redone because those are hard to find. You can't.
I had to put a new bottom in that tank because it was rusted out.
Had to find these like they're brass, right? The gas caps with like a little lead melt.
Yeah. So the gas tank won't explode on you.
This is like a lead that'll melt out if things get too hot. And originally, when we got the truck, they had been replaced with like a solid cap. What else is cool on the engine?
Well, that's an oil bath air cleaner, which by the way was missing. I had to hunt this down. Not that easy to find. Fram oddly doesn't make them. It has a dual disc 13-inch hydraulic clutch.
I remember we had to use the engine hoist, I think, to pick up the clutch assembly.
The entire flywheel and clutch assembly, I think, weighs 80 pounds. And actually, when you turn this engine off, it doesn't stop instantly. It just winds down like a tree chipper. It has a Spicer 5-speed truck transmission. It has a giant drive shaft that's like 20 feet long.
It just keeps going. What does it end in? What's the rear end in this truck?
It's some type of Rockwell. It's a 2-speed big truck rear end. I think the high range is something like 657 to 1.
Is the Rockwell the one that we found the instruction manual for, and it was like if this breaks, it's not this?
That's actually the Spicer. The Spicer transmission manual basically says there's nothing that can ever go wrong with our transmission. If you have any shifting problems or it breaks, it's not because of this. They're very confident. It's hard to see, but the engine has another detail that's kind of worth mentioning. Maybe if you come over here, Elon, you can see it. It has a mechanical governor right there. That is it's the Pierce Company governor, mechanical. It's governed to 3,800 RPM. And kind of a weird thing to see on an engine like this, but they built this for industrial use. It was just designed to run a couple 100,000 miles, which in the 60s was a lot of miles on an engine. You know, modern cars do that all the time, but these things, not so much. It has power-assisted manual steering. There's actually a hydraulic ram on the drag link. It's like a really supersized Ford system.
What about these wheels and tires? We're going to have to buy new tires. They don't...
These guys are 41 inches tall. It's a multi-piece rim, so caution. The chrome plating is original Dick Landy chrome. The Hemi orange is Dick Landy. That hub cover is supposed to be chrome plated. I haven't got there yet.
You did redo this bumper though. It's
I
looking
did.
Pretty good.
I had to find the bumper. It was missing.
And the horns for it. Those were a big deal.
Yeah, the tow hooks. And these are the lights that Landy had on it. They're per Lux brand in case somebody else is restoring one. That's the light. You know.
Let's look at some photos of what we hope to bring this truck back to. This is probably one of the best photos we have. You can see the whole truck. You can see how it's got like all the storage in here. And so most of these trucks, or the trucks that I've seen maybe 3 or 4 of them now, there'll be like rails in here so you could like pull an engine in and out, have a complete engine. There was tire storage up here. There was usually like a closet bar, like a clothing bar, and hang the racing jackets and pants and stuff on it.
Yeah, you got to have the fancy uniforms for when you're in the winter circle.
Well, Landy was somewhat famous for always wearing white and being pretty spotless at the track.
Yeah.
Sometimes down here there would be maybe like an air compressor, obviously a toolbox, pull out with all of the hand tools.
Everything you need, basically. I read an old interview with Landy, and he said that they drove 100,000 miles a year with this truck to all the various Dodge dealers, mainly.
And then they also went racing, so raced with a Challenger. Most of the photos we have the Challenger on the back. There's also a Charger. Here you can see the truck is towing a trailer as well as has a charger on the back, and what's that? A coronet behind it.
It is. Yeah.
You know, when you got to take both your charger and your coronet to the races, as I hope to do. I just need a coronet. Here is a clinic brochure to prove that we have not been making this up.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that the truck is in the background. Like, his car is always blocking this truck.
They just weren't thinking about your needs back in the day, Tom.
Yeah, if anybody's got any pictures of this truck or owned it before, I would love to talk to you. You know, I think we could probably finish up the video with showing people the engine starting.
We haven't even shown them the cab yet, Tom. You're in such a hurry.
The cab is not that...
Look at Landy. Look how cool he was. He's got like cigar and his white outfit. Dick Landy, Northridge P.O. Box. So look, you've got like general tips here from the clinic. Have someone floor your throttle while you check to see that the secondaries of the carburetors are opening fully against the stops, without the engine running, of course. A lot of performance buffs overlook the need to check this basic point. Did you check that, Tom?
I've never looked into that.
Your best bet in the exhaust department is the hooker headers 2 inches.
You know, nobody here has bought a ticket to the clinic. You can't give them all the secrets yet. By the way, these sending units for these gas tanks were pretty hard to find. Actually, everything was pretty hard to find now that I think about it.
What was your number one most exciting find, Tom?
Probably the freaking air cleaner, because it's a 4-barrel one. And Landy being Landy, this engine with the 4-barrel is actually out of the next bigger truck. These were all 2 barrels, except Dick Landy had a 4-barrel.
Of course he did. Don't waste money on a cheap tack. Could learn so much. That is the truck as we were shown it in the advertisements.
Yeah, looks perfect, doesn't it?
At the racetrack. So you can see we've still got a fair amount of work to do to get it back to how it was. That is what we've been working on most recently. So they had cut the top off, and then they used part of the original top, like they just sort of dropped it down and moved it forward. So we've cut that back off. We've got to like move it back and then build it back up about 3 feet maybe to remake the box. Got to figure out all of this stuff just from the photos, because there's no blueprints that we've found for the truck. Who made this truck originally? I mean, obviously Dodge made the chassis, but then it went somewhere.
The bed was built by the Aluminum Body Corporation in Montebello. So I've seen actually this exact ramp body on a couple other trucks. So they sold them, but you know, you can't find one now.
And if there are blueprints for making it, we don't know where they are. If you do, or you worked for the Aluminum Body Corporation, please let us know. We are very interested in talking to you. Let's look at the cab, because you have done probably, well, I mean, I would say the engine is the most amazing transformation so far, but the cab is looking pretty good compared to how it was when we got it.
Yeah, well, there's a a lot of, like this fender, my friend Peter took it all apart. Every component part was disassembled because there was rust between the sheet metal panels and it kept oozing out. And so it was all stripped down and rebuilt. There's about 25 patch panels in this fender.
And you don't even realize it, but like this had to come apart because there was rust underneath it, like in that seam.
Yeah, this seam was not nice. It was bubbling.
And, you know, it's not a straightforward thing. There's no like bolts for it. You had to like completely deconstruct it. The whole firewall of the truck was completely rusty.
Actually, the entire top piece here.
Yeah. That whole channel had been filled in with gunk and rusted out.
The truck originally was delivered Dodge truck white, and Landy had it painted silver. And so I'm going to leave the engine compartment white because it was never silver. So I'm making it as best I can how it was when he had it.
Inside,
Actually, the back of the truck is somewhat interesting because this whole panel was missing. Whoever owned it before made a motorhome out of it, and so they torch cut the back of the cab out to make it like a Class C motorhome. And a lot of people did that with these trucks to get them off the commercial registration, so you could avoid that hassle. But of course, it had to be put back in.
yeah, I think the donor cab was orange, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of pieces of big trucks in the yard since we got this one. On the roof, you can see that when Landy got the truck, he took off, I think, a swamp cooler, which is how it came. That's what those filled holes are. And then he put in an air conditioner. And so, because we're thinking about the history and being able to prove the provenance of the truck down the road, when we can't necessarily show people all of this stuff because we are going to paint the truck, we wanted to leave those things so that somebody later on can find it and be like, oh, this is one more thing that proves what it was.
Yeah, well, the trucks were all delivered cab and chassis. There's actually 4 of these. Dick Landy got this one, Sox and Martin had one, Don Grothier had one. Was it 4 or 3? And I think, there's a Billy the Kid one, but it was actually the Sox and Martin truck. And so they all were identical. Same bed, same cabs.
Was Richard Petty's truck one of these?
It was not.
Oh, it was a little different. One of the things that we've thought about a lot working on this truck is we have a friend named Todd who's a collector, and we visited him once, and he was talking about the things that he looks for, especially in a race car, right? Because a race car is like that whole, what's that whole hammer saying, you know, like it's grandpa's hammer, only like the handle's been replaced 7 times and the head's been replaced 4.
Right.
And so he was talking about how when he looks for a car, he looks for its bones, how many of its original bones are there, you know? And so something like these doors, they were trashed. I mean, this is all new metal, all of it, because the door was just rusted away here.
Yeah, it would have been a lot cheaper just to replace the doors, but I wanted to keep all the pieces I could that were savable.
Yeah, and the way that Todd phrased it to us is, you know, this door, Dick Landy rested his arm on it. If you just replace this door completely, then Dick Landy never touched the new door, and you could sort of rebuild an entire vehicle that has history, and yet the history is somehow not as powerful. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. It's something I think about a lot when I look at how people are restoring important vehicles. It's also very stressful. I mean, our original plan was not to have a historical piece of machinery. It was just to have a cool ramp truck. We were going to put a diesel in it and just like take our car out. And then we ended up with this thing where now we owe it to the people to do it right.
We owe it to the hobby. And,
yeah,
it's kind of cool. You know, I've saved this truck from oblivion, you know. I've hunted down all the missing pieces, and we're slowly putting it back together. And these things are not a cheap project, and it's taken us a long time because we don't have the money to make it happen instantly.
I mean, it takes money and it takes energy too. You know, you can, when you work on something that can't quickly be turned around.
There's an airplane again.
Yeah, I don't know where those come from.
And you know, there is one other cool aspect of owning a vehicle like this. You become like a lower level celebrity, because when we first bought this, if you remember, Ilana, we had a message left on our machine from the snake, that's never called me. I've never talked to him. And all of a sudden there's a message that, oh, Don Verdone wants to get a hold of you. Like, okay, let me call him.
Yeah, Don Prudhomme and Roland Leong came over when we first got the truck home because they wanted to see it because they were both friends with Landy.
Yeah, and they were like, you're out of your mind. Look at this thing.
He still checks in with us on it. He's encouraging us to finish it up.
And in my defense as to how long this is taking, his trucks were a lot easier because they stayed on the West Coast.
Also, he had guys. The thing is, we need some guys. But we're making progress. It looks better than it did when we started. We haven't given up yet. And if you know anything about this truck or anything about big trucks, let us know, because we're always looking. That this is information that is not readily available, and we want to find it.
There you go. Next video, I'll be driving it. Look, it's got oil pressure.